Hello and welcome to Start the Beat with Sykes. My name is Sykes and this is my podcast. Before we get started, I just want to take a quick moment to thank everyone who checked out the last conversation. If you're one of those people, thanks so much for coming back. But for everyone else out there who's new to the show, welcome. Feel free to make yourselves at home. And as always, there's beer and soda in the fridge. Cheers.
Cheers. Thank you for having us.
Thank you. Yes. Thank you for coming. Thank you for bringing an Iron City. I don't think I've drank an Iron City in 74 years.
Wow.
But I'm happy to dig in.
Dude, how are you just living?
I feel like we have a few Iron City cans that are that old.
Yes. I just think that I have like a different cheap beer of choice.
What is it? Preferred?
High Life.
Oh, the champagne.
That was like the expensive beer when I was 18. That's like we drink Natty Light, but on New Year's we'd get that 24 rack of the glass bottles. So
his gift to all of us was the champagne bottle of the champagne.
Oh, fuck yeah.
That was like a Christmas present. I got a case of them somewhere, so I love it.
Dude, yeah. I remember like being at a house party right after I had like started to kind of get into craft beer, at least just being aware that it was a thing. And then there was somebody at the party that was like trying to like get a Yingling off someone. They're like, you can't have my good stuff. And I thought it was really funny that like Yingling was their good stuff. But I mean, to each their own.
The premier choice, Yingling.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. You know, to this day, I don't like Yingling. I just don't like the taste of it. It genuinely makes me like, it's like a science experiment inside of me. Like,
well,
I don't know.
Either, right?
I don't. It reacts in some weird way to my chemistry, right?
Yeah,
I love it. I'm a lager guy.
Hey, I mean, like I like a lager. There's just something about a Yingling. But you know what? We're not here to talk about Yingling. We may be here to talk about beer at some point in time.
It's true.
But more importantly, why are the two of you here? There's like 10 different reasons that you could be here.
You know.
JJ hit me up and was just like, hey, I want to come talk. Giovanni's going to come. I'm like, okay, cool. But are we promoting your band? Are we promoting Steel City Death Club? Are we promoting Yingling? What the hell are we doing? Who are you? Why are you here? Let the people know.
Well, we're definitely not promoting Yingling.
Yeah, that wasn't the object. I mean, you know, always looking for that sponsorship. Yeah, you know, if you see this Yingling.
Yeah, my favorite beer.
Yes. But yeah, absolutely. We've just been like cooking on a lot of different stuff lately. We've been watching your podcast for quite a while, and we just thought it'd be a pleasure to meet you in person. I feel like we've had a lot of mutual contacts with people, and it's just like I just missed running into you up until this point.
Totally. So for anybody that doesn't know, let's start with Steel City Death Club.
Sure.
What is Steel City Death Club?
Steel City Death Club is a record label, and it's also a booking collective and a multimedia collective right now too. So we do like videos, we do live sessions, interviews, we book shows, we have an audio studio. So like we record albums for people and stuff too. And we're starting to, through some third parties, put out like tape runs, and we did a vinyl run too. So kind of a hodgepodge of a bunch of different kind of talents and stuff, just like more of a pool of resources.
We're definitely working on our identity right now a little bit internally of like, because when people ask what is SCDC, our buddy Nate, he's like kind of our copywriter now, sort of, and he's been coming up with a lot of monikers for us, and one of them that we just put on our website is More Than Just a Label. And so that kind of speaks to that we're kind of trying to edge our way into any type of piece of something that a band needs.
Yeah, just kind of like trying to like foster an environment for our artists and even people through shows like that aren't on the label, through booking, just kind of like fostering communities around that and just like making networks of resources for people and stuff too. So especially for a lot of like us when we were starting out and kind of forming, none of us really had a lot of the talents of audio recording, video production, show booking, and just through like booking Roboto gigs and stuff like that over the course of in-house parties and, you know, all the DIY stuff, kind of just like brought all these guys and girls together in like a real cool way. And so I guess the goal is just to foster more of those communities, and especially through this weekend, we just threw Death Fest, and it was a bigger success than we thought it was going to be. So just kind of keeping that train rolling.
Yeah, I think that it's really cool what you and everyone else who's involved with that project is doing, because it's really, really important to actually follow through with the whole like music scene being a community thing. A lot of times people say they're a part of the music scene, but really what they're doing is they're in a room with other people who are in the music scene, but there's no actual like, hey, how's it going? It's just kind of like a, what's up? And that's it, you know? And I think that there's a lot of opportunity that is missed when people don't do that, because, you know, sometimes I can't tell you how many times I've seen some motherfucker on Facebook that's like, I can't find somebody to shoot a music video. And it's just like, there's people that are at shows with cameras that you were playing. Ask them, you fucking dingus.
Yeah, no, it's just like, where's a good photographer? I'm like, yo, your last show had like 30 good ones.
Yeah.
What are you talking about?
We just have been fortunate enough to cross paths and make friends with a lot of really talented people that can do things that we're adequate at doing and also do things way better than we're doing.
That kind of seems like everybody that's involved now has like, at least it's kind of organizing with like a lot of our shoots, like the live sessions especially, is everybody that's working has kind of developed like a set of skills, whether it's I'll do most of the recording and engineering and like producing up front, whereas you handle a lot of like the logistics and like filming.
I'm the secretary.
Like, yeah, I wouldn't say that. But I wouldn't say that. You definitely do a shitload, probably more than me. And then, like Evan does all the photography and he's a great videographer too. So it's just a very cool to see how it's developed over the last like 2 or 3 years, and everybody kind of really fell into a skill set and just keep it going. And I think the goal now is to like keep booking shows. Like I love booking shows with people I've never played with before, and that's kind of how I met all of them.
That's
like I'd never known Adam. Yeah,
that's your neck of the woods, is like the show booking thing and all that kind of stuff. And yeah, so basically I echo what I call him Jeb, by the way. It's his name is Giovanni, and that's like I'm gonna call him Jeb throughout this whole thing. That's just his name to me, and it's
fair enough.
That's a long story, but I am conditioned to say Jeb.
You are aware that you're here for long stories, right? Like that's the whole fucking thing that we're doing right now.
Well, why are you called Jeb then?
All right, long story, not really, but in middle school, it's kind of still hurts my soul a little bit. I'm still a little butthurt about it. Not gonna lie, throwing that out there. But this kid, I introduced myself to him. He was kind of a popular guy at the time, and so next day I came back into school and he couldn't remember my name, so he called me Jebediah.
Fuck
yeah, and that stuck. And then I leaned into it so hard.
His girlfriend calls him Jeb. She doesn't call him Giovanni.
Yeah, it's like weird. I've known her forever, so it's just weird if you hear it now.
Yeah. Sure. Nicknames are like that sometimes.
Yeah.
Exactly. What are you gonna do?
So, anyways,
so do you go by Sykes regularly, or do you go by Brian regularly?
I mean, I will say this: I will never introduce myself to somebody as Sykes.
Yes, I'm the same way. Okay. That's exactly.
But if you call me it or some, it's I will totally react to it.
Yeah,
that's pretty much all it is. You know, back when I was playing a lot more solo rap shows.
Yeah.
I would introduce myself as Sykes to like a promoter or somebody involved with the show, because it's like, I can't be like, I'm Brian. And everyone's like, well, where's Sykes at? It's like, oh yeah, well, that's me.
Same thing.
You kind of have to, because it's like a performance thing.
Yeah, you're there like under your stage
the entertainment has arrived. But like, if we're just like
talent badge.
Yeah, you're just fucking around with a couple people. Like, I can't just be like, hey, I'm Sykes. Yeah. Jesus Christ. It sounds so dumb. And like, also keeping in mind that like, this is like a hip hop moniker that I gave myself when I was a teenager, and I am now not a teenager. Way past a teenager. I'm in my 30s. So to still be like using that name is like, it really kind of grates me in a weird way, to be honest. But that's a whole nother can of worms.
Yeah, we were talking about identity with Steel City Death Club too, and it's kind of the same thing, but also different. Like,
when people ask, I just usually say, don't worry about it. Like, until we figure it out, like, just like, well, what do you guys do? It's just like, you know.
We sit down and talk all the time. And obviously we've been planning a lot of stuff, so we haven't had much time to talk about big picture stuff, but that's definitely on the horizon of like, and that'll always change too, like what Steel City Death Club is, like with what we're able to do.
It's always going to change in the way that this podcast setup always changes. You can't like put a goal on like an artistic endeavor, because the beautiful thing about art is that like, even though you're kind of like a vessel for it, you don't really control it.
Yeah.
So it's going to turn into whatever the fuck it's going to turn into. And you just have to be along for the ride or not.
Right.
Anything that I've tried to put like those kind of boundaries on too set from the beginning and not willing to adapt, like it's ended up being shit. Or just ended up, goddamn, I wish I would have done this kind of stuff. So I completely agree.
Yeah. There's still, the video's still out there, but I made this like documentary about us when we hadn't done anything yet in college video class.
Like an assignment, yeah.
And it's
self-made doc, like let's go.
I had to do something, and it has all of us trying to like sitting down talking about our like, this is my guitar. It traveled many moons and many miles with me and stuff like that. It's just like a bunch of 20-year-old kids being like, yeah, I put miles on this.
I bought a Focusrite 1820. Like I'm so legit
I'm
now.
sick.
Like,
Yeah. But it's still out there. You can watch it. It's hilarious now, but like, you know, that's us trying to stumble through what we were then, and we're still trying to stumble through what we are now.
You know, I've had a lot of like thoughts regarding that sort of thing, like the self-made documentary thing, because I'm definitely guilty of doing that when I was younger as well. And I think what it is just like, for me anyways, and I'm imagining it was the same with you, is like nobody knows who the fuck you are. Nobody wants to talk to you, but like you want to scream at the world and be like, this is what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So if you have access to the resources to make like a documentary, you do it. And then in a few years, you're like, you know,
it's just so buried with the regular content we do now that it's like, we might as well just leave it there. It's like a stumble upon.
There's a studio tour in there, which is great.
Oh, so we're literally pointing out like, this is where like the ripped drum heads
This
are.
is the
like,
drum
we're
head.
like, yeah. And I'm like, wow, that's so dumb. And I was
It's
like, that was
rad.
like 3 years ago. I was just like,
I think that what's cool about going through all of that stuff is that now in the position that you're in running this, you know, collective label, whatever it is, you can kind of guide some people in a direction to maybe not do those things.
Oh,
like, hey, we did this. It was dumb. Don't do it. Or
That's true.
we played a show with this promoter. They suck. Don't do it. Or
Exactly.
all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, like I know you talk a lot about like wanting to do younger shows for younger people.
yeah, well,
that
that's
are, like,
kinda
cool,
that
you
was the point of Death Club. Like when I founded it, was like, at least there's so many different pockets of scenes, quote unquote, which is basically just the friend groups of bands and stuff. And like when we were starting out, especially teenagers starting to play at like the Moose and stuff, 14, 15, obviously you're not really going to run into anybody that's trying to book you too much. So it felt like there was all this stuff going on, but there wasn't a lot of resources for like, it's very hard to it's right under your nose is what I'm like. It's very hard to find your way into that. Even places like Roboto and like booking it. At first, when I was younger, it was like difficult. How do you book a show? How do you do that? And there weren't really any resources to like learn how to, at least for me. So the idea was to just kind of like start booking shows, and just lost so much money for, you know, Roboto, all that stuff. But then it's like, you start kind of figuring it out. And now it's just like, that was kind of the point, I guess.
When you get offered a Battle of the Band at the Rex to play at 3 a.m.
Yeah. Yeah, and you're just like 17 and it's a Sunday.
Yeah, and you got
mom's
school
like,
the next day.
What are you doing? It's just like, all right.
And the biggest cheer wins. Like, come on, bro.
Yeah,
But,
I don't know. So I guess the idea was just like kind of for that is like there weren't a lot of like opportunities, or hard to find your way into those sometimes. Because a lot of the scenes are so split up, like especially genre wise, like there's very specific pockets of things. And I think the idea too was to kind of like pool a little more broadly than like some other people were doing at the time for like styles of music. But now it's just kind of turned into just whatever.
We want to do
for
everything.
Yeah. It's just like,
Well, you know, it's all kind of tied to the cliche of be the change you wish to see in the world type shit, right?
I guess. Yeah.
And, you know, I think that, you know, if you're seeing a lack of things that you can be a conduit for, you start to do it. And, you know, I've done it. You guys are doing it. Other people are doing it. And I find that it's a really good way to get yourself around like-minded people and really figure out like who gives a shit and who doesn't. Like you can't just like play shows with the same 6 bands every other month at the same
Which we're all
venues.
guilty of.
Totally,
Yeah, for
totally,
sure.
totally. But like, you know, like it doesn't grow.
Yeah.
And until you're able to like open up that door and start sharing resources with people, because I think a lot of people tend to, I've never really gotten the vibe that like it was like competitive in Pittsburgh,
Mhm.
but there are people that are very, lame. I don't know how to put it. They're just like standoffish, right?
Yeah, that's a good
there's,
word.
there's a
And-
lot of that.
Like
and-
a lot of arms crossed, you know, that kind of thing.
Yeah, and trying to like, I've had like, you know, some of those people, I've gotten them on the show, and I get to talking to them like, oh, we're the same fucking person.
Yeah.
Like, there's just like a weird. I think maybe it's part of this like growing up in an alternative subculture and being a little bit of an introvert or something, and not trusting other people, or
Right.
like you're like a porcupine or something.
Yeah.
There's a lot of that.
Especially too, like a lot of the different like scene. Like we were playing with like metal bands when we were in high school on like Drusky shows.
In a band that wasn't metal.
Yeah, just like as an indie
Which
high
is great.
school band, just you know, like the random last minute, like, oh, Drusky's like, we need an opener. Like,
Yeah.
come do this. And like those are the only people you'd interact with. So obviously these 4 50-year-old guys aren't gonna be interested in talking to you. And then it's like you do find a community, and then you go to a house show in Oakland, and like the crowd, everybody there, you've never met any of them. And so at first, that's at least for me was kind of intimidating, but then I just started loving it, like going to new shows and meeting new people and stuff. And especially like through music, like I used to only like certain genres of music, but as you go out to different shows or book more bands, like started having an appreciation for more of that. And I'm sure even having this podcast, like talking to all these people, like just, you probably just think about things.
Oh, yeah.
Way bigger perspective on like, especially in Pittsburgh.
Yeah,
for
I've
music
had-
here.
I've had people hit me up and like, I mean, it's on both sides of the spectrum. I've had people hit me up that I have never heard of that have a decent following, and it ends up being like this gateway to a whole nother pocket of like weird, like DIY R&B that's happening at like fashion shows and stuff. I'm like,
So sick.
okay, cool. And then there's people that have hit me up that I've wished I never met in my life.
Right.
But,
Oh, yeah.
you know, it's all part of being in this. And I think that it's really cool to like have your fingers on the pulse of everything, because there is so much that's going on. And I find that like really inspiring to see what other people are doing in other scenes. I feel like I've gotten way more out of other genres of music and going to those shows than like the genres of music that like I typically play.
Yeah.
Sure.
You know, like
Yeah.
not every aspect of the Pittsburgh heavy metal community has been incredibly welcoming. And like some of our best shows have been the shows that we book ourselves, where it'll just be some weirdo lineup.
Right.
But there's a lot of cool stuff too, but it can be very like weird. I just don't get it. You know, I've said this 10,000 fucking times, but it's that thing where it's like, if this was high school, we'd all sit at the same lunch table. You know, you'd be the guy in the System of a Down shirt. I'd be the guy in the Korn shirt. We'd have one weird friend with a Foo Fighter shirt, but it's cool. Like we're all homies,
And then one
right?
that just came from Super Smash Club.
Yeah. Like we're all homies. And it's like, what changed? Like,
Depending on when you went to high school, the Foo Fighters shirt might have been sick or really lame. It depends. It depends. Like when we went to high school, if you're wearing a Foo Fighters shirt, I don't know, man. But
half
like,
the people, it was like sick, and half the people would make fun of you for it.
yeah, for sure.
The
I mean, I've seen the Foo Fighters like many times, so I'm lame too. So
Not
it's
a
fine.
big Foo Fighters guy.
No,
I'm throwing it out there.
whatever.
you know, they're one of those bands that I know keeps putting out albums, but I don't think I've listened to anything that they've done in like 2 decades.
Well, they're
But
doing.
if you know, one of them,
They're the Bee Gees now. They're the
The
DGs.
DGs, they're going to
Did
put
you
a
know
disco
that?
record out.
no.
They put out a disco record
Okay.
where they cover all Bee Gees songs.
Okay, that's like as dumb as that Weezer album, right?
Yeah. But like, I still I just want to listen to it just to be like, is this maybe? Because I love the Bee Gees. I don't know.
Sure.
Yeah.
No, I mean, like, I'm into it, but it's just like, you know, I don't know. Famous people with money, burning
Yeah.
studio time. Here we go.
Yeah. Right.
Enjoy.
Exactly.
And it's just like,
It's like a lot of people will buy this.
yeah, and it just sucks for like somebody as for somebody who is supposedly as cool as like a Dave Grohl is, you think he would be a little bit more self-aware.
Yeah, I like to think that he is as cool as he seems, but like the stunts that he's pulling with like, let's make a documentary where we film ourselves in every studio.
Like we did that when we were 18. He's
Also,
doing that now.
The most damning the most damning thing he did
shit
to
on Dave Grohl session.
is he like he put out that movie about the Foo Fighters, and he was like, yeah, we're making a record in our garage. It's like, bro, you have a $1,000 tape machine in your garage. Yeah, we're making records in our
DIY
garage.
This is.
There's nothing DIY about it. Fucking who's the producer that did Nevermind?
Butch Vig?
No, Butch Vig.
Oh, Butch Vig.
Butch Vig is hanging out in his garage recording them. Okay, that's so DIY of you. That's great. But
yeah, you really just do it yourself.
yeah, really, really preaching that DIY mentality. But.
Yeah. It's. I think that it's just unfortunately inevitable for like people that have been on a certain level for so long to like they just get disconnected.
For sure. Yeah, there's no way around. Because you got to imagine if somebody on that level or even some semblance of fame went to a house party show to see what's like cooking on the streets, basically, it's in 2 seconds, it's going to be loaded. Things going to get shut down. You almost kind of at some point, you're just such above it. Like not above it in terms of, but just outside of it that you just can't stay connected. You're right.
It's like it'd be like the equivalent of like, I don't know, even though you've access to great restaurants. Like all you could do is eat at TGI Fridays for the rest of your life for some reason. Because if you go anywhere else, it's just too much.
Small caveat: they have a burger that has cheese fries on it now, which is insane.
Bro, that's flavor.
Isn't that?
If I've ever heard it.
Hasn't insane. Sheetz been doing that for a long time?
Yeah, but TGI. I went to TGI Fridays recently. I'm gonna say it. I did it.
Okay.
And,
for the burger.
I had the burger. I had the burger, and it was disgusting.
Oh yeah.
Whatever. I had to try it.
You can only do so much at once, right? And like this is honestly a perfect segue because sometimes, especially for a couple of individuals, a couple of individuals such as yourselves, does life sometimes feel like a cheeseburger with cheese sticks and too many toppings on it?
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Oh my Lord. That's something that has been like
right now it does
this year. It's like because even up until the pandemic, it was like we were doing a lot of stuff. And at the time, I think at one point there was 4 bands rehearsing on top of it as well that I was like gigging with. 3 of them were gigging.
Not in the pandemic though.
Not in the pandemic. Once that ended and we started just ramping up again, even with just filming the live sessions over the pandemic and practice and all that, you're like, yo, I literally don't have free time for the next week and a half.
There's only so many times our studio can get rearranged before you're like, okay, can I just have my drum set be the same for one time and then I come back and it's the same again?
Dealing with burnout, especially with work, because there's not money in it. I'm not making a living off of it.
You have to work too.
It's just like on top of 40 hours of work, it's like that's just in everything, and it's like that'll wreck you if you're not careful. I'm sure especially with everything.
Yeah,
and that's definitely been the biggest challenge is like timing it right so that everything gets like what it needs without being like undercut.
I think that for me personally, what I have found to be very beneficial is just not doing stuff if I don't feel like doing it and don't say anything about it. Nobody notices. Nobody fucking cares.
Yep.
Right.
I could easily not put out an episode of my podcast for probably 2 months.
Yeah.
And nobody would say a goddamn word to me.
Right.
I guarantee you.
Yeah.
And then I'd put out another one and be like, oh, okay, whatever.
Yeah.
Right.
But if you're all like, if you publicly highlight not being able to do something or things like that, then all of a sudden it becomes a much different thing.
And I think that's a conscious effort that we're trying to make too, is like I obviously, and Steel City Death Club I'm talking about, we all know like what we're doing and like the like extent to which we're doing it. However, like nobody else does. And so if like I've found myself guilty of this, like, oh, we might miss putting out a video this week. Oh no.
Yeah.
It's like,
that kind of shit.
Who cares?
Nobody's paying attention.
Yeah. And now we're just like, all right, we're off season. we scheduled out the shooting schedule and like we're good. Like,
Yeah.
if somebody has ideas they want to shoot and put out, like great.
A
but,
lot
like,
of it
we're
is
just rolling
my
with it.
a lot of it is me personally, my OCD wanting to have a video every Monday and look the same and uniform and good and blah blah blah. But like, you also got to get over that.
You know, that's honestly like why like I have found myself like having like it's kind of a luxury of being mediocre, right? Which I'm totally comfortable with saying that. Like in the grand scheme of things, right?
How do you
like
mean?
like I'm not somebody like we'll take this podcast for example, right? Like this isn't a podcast that gets like 30,000 views in an hour. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like it's a small thing. It means a lot to me. It means a lot to a small community, but on a big scale, it's not a huge thing. So
Right.
for me to just say like, I don't want to do this today, it's okay. And nobody else really notices. And that's what is good, because if I was in a position, like say I'm a huge podcaster and say every episode that I do does get those views, I couldn't probably skip. I would actually have to then keep up
Especially
with
if your
stuff.
like income is based.
Yeah,
on
because
it.
like you know,
Unless
it's
you
like
get
income
that
based,
fuck you
or like
money,
you know, you
but-
have like a much bigger fan base where people are gonna be expecting things. Like nobody
Right.
expects shit from me.
Yeah.
And like as much as I like want it, or like it'd be cool to be in a band that's super successful, it's like, well, how successful? How much success then actually becomes like a problem?
Right.
And I
Like
wonder
pressure.
about that sometimes.
General general high level consistency is way more important than like the really nitty gritty consistency. You hear me, future us? It doesn't matter that much, man. Take it easy.
Yeah, watch this in 5 years when you're like, you remember that time we did that podcast? Oh God, it's fucking worse.
Making
But
fun
that's the way I feel like that's the way it always is, that you're always gonna look back on your past self and just like, oh no. I mean, that's just
That's
part
kind of the
figuring
point,
it out.
though, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just weird now that like I feel like especially younger people coming up, like they're figuring that out and it's all recorded and out there.
Oh
Or
yeah,
even for me, a lot of
Scary.
the stuff like in high school and even some in middle school, it's like, you know, some social media, but like most of the shows we played for the first 8 years were dog shit, and there was
Yeah.
nobody there because nobody knew
Well,
about
and,
them.
like my brother, he's 4 years younger than me, and he's just getting into music now, which is it thrills me beyond anything. It's so cool, and I like can jam with him now and everything, and that's great. However, he's like holding himself to the standard of like bands that have existed for, you know, how long have we been
Yeah.
playing for like a long time. And I'm like, dude, you got to take your licks sometimes because that's just makes you better. You know, play a silly roboto gig and then you'll know, you know, or like he's trying to record and it's like, you don't have to be pro yet. You know, I know you get,
Take it one step
I
at a
admire
time,
that
yeah.
you want to
Yeah.
be, but take it one step at a time.
Yeah.
You'll get there.
Yeah.
You know, like you
That's-
will get there. It just takes a little bit.
Yeah.
that's the thing that really, really sucks about a lot of the internet and the whole like. It's a lot easier to look like a good band than be a good
Yeah.
band.
Yeah.
Yep.
I remember I started seeing this shit happening in like when MySpace was a thing.
Mm.
And there was a band. I don't remember what the hell the name of this band was. For one, they weren't a real band. I don't think they ever played any shows or anything.
Mm-hmm.
But the kid that ran this band, he could self-record. He could do graphic design. So like they had this MySpace page where it was like all of these t-shirt designs, band
Yeah.
logo, well, like, you know, recorded demos that have like, you know, like computer drums on them, but it was like, you know, MySpace metalcore bullshit. But I mean, like it really looked like a well put together thing.
Yeah.
But it wasn't. It was totally bullshit. And I
Right.
remember seeing that and I was just like, this is going to be a fucking problem.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because if there's some kid from like Irwin or wherever the hell he was from doing this, this isn't going to be the only one. This is definitely going to expand. It's going to turn into a thing where now people see like, oh, like so-and-so has a band in a MySpace. I want a band in a MySpace. And like,
Right.
we got to get t-shirt designs. We got to get a logo. We got to get photos. It's like, okay, when did the songs come in?
Yeah.
When do you start writing songs?
When do you practice?
Yeah.
There's
Absolutely.
a fine line, and I'm talking to future me and current me. There's a
Yeah, we're gonna
fine
be totally hypocrites about this.
there's
shit,
a
by the way.
fine
Cheers.
line between like you want to be as pro as you can, right? You know, fake it till you make it type of thing.
Yeah.
But there's also such thing as too pro. Like for Fortune Teller, our band, whenever like we're we're planning a lot for the fall and whatever. And so I'll go to him like, hey, I think we should get this, this, and this, and this. And thankfully, he's more like, okay, pump the brakes. How many t-shirt designs do we need?
Sure.
Who cares?
Yeah.
And I'm like, you're right. Let's save a couple $100.
It's not even like a who cares, because it's like our friends will think it's sweet.
Exactly.
We order 100 shirts,
Yeah.
and our 20 friends that think it's sweet.
Not gonna make our
sure,
money
yeah,
back.
You'll sell 10 on the road in 4 months.
Yeah, you order 100
it.
shirts and you have 2 shows booked.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
Like,
Like, how are you gonna
That's
get
just
rid
part
of
of
your
figuring it
inventory?
out. Like,
Yeah.
whoa, it's just you just take the hits and you're like,
Right.
all right.
Exactly.
I think that part of it, I relate with the stress of feeling like I need to do all this stuff because like I know like these are things that I should do,
Yeah.
but like the timing sometimes gets mixed up in my head. I always have, God, I got a burp. I always have a hard time falling asleep. And like, this is the
Yeah,
kind of shit
me
that I
too.
think about at
Right.
night, you know what I mean? Where I'm just like, oh, fuck, like I got to make a checklist for this gig because like, it's a bigger one and we're bringing all these extra lights and are we going to need a table or not a table for the merch? I got to fucking, I'm like making all these notes up till 3 in the
notes app-
morning.
Yeah.
The notes
same.
app on my phone is a very manic place right now.
Same. It's horrific. Even the voice memos. If I'm at work and
Oh,
I can't
yeah.
type something, I'll be like, do this.
Text
It's
this
either
person
weird
this.
beatbox beats that I'm going to try to record later that I think for some reason I'm going to know what I'm doing, or it's just like, hey, piece of shit, like get this done later.
I love like it'll be like 4 days later and I'll just see a note in my phone that says like corn salad and I'm like, what was that about? What does this mean?
Yeah.
And I will never remember.
I used to work at a restaurant. I used to work at Permane Brothers in Mount Lebanon, and I would get like almost like war flashbacks in bed of like, oh shit, I forgot that guy's ranch. You want another beer?
Sure.
Yeah, that I would be like, yo, I forgot that guy's ranch. He's like, and I would have bad dreams about that kind of thing. So like, it's a kind of a similar thing. I think everybody, I'm going to speak right to the camera. I think everybody should work in food service because it takes a lot out of you and you kind of treat people nicer that way. However,
food service taught me how to
sucks,
deal
man.
with
Yeah.
assholes.
sucks.
Yeah,
I totally hear you.
my first job ever was at a Taco Bell. I saved up my first
yes.
3 paychecks to buy my first sampler drum machine.
Ring it, baby. Ring the bell.
And I still have that sampler.
That's tight.
I worked at Panera for like 6 months when I was 16 after high school and saved
Across from a what? A Taco
across
Bell.
from a Taco Bell that
There
my
you go.
friend used to work at, and I would go over and get free quesadillas.
Oh, that
hell yeah,
rules.
Balling out.
That rules.
Love you, Taco Bell. Give
Cheers
me free
to Taco
shit still.
Bell. Yeah.
But yeah, and just fucking saved up and bought my first actual guitar, like a Fender Jaguar, and I was like, oh, I'm the shit now.
You had a
You were.
summer where you just spent a lot of like your graduation money. And
I spent
work
all my money
on an amp and a guitar, and it was so fulfilling for me to see because I'm just this much older than him, and
like
I've-
a year or so.
yeah. But like I at that point like I'm a drum nerd. And so I think I had like multiple drum kits by then, but you were like joining the club of like the buying expensive gear club, and it was so sick.
This hobby that I regret getting into now.
Yeah,
'Cause
sure.
It's like start working at 16, just been broke since.
Yeah. Total. So
But in the best
but
way.
financially broke, but spiritually rich.
Oh,
Yes.
absolutely. Oh, 100%.
love that.
Absolutely.
Yes.
So on the topic of fast food employees, question for the both of you. Are you
Okay.
familiar with Moe's Southwest
Yes, I
Grill?
am.
Yes. Yes.
Welcome to Moe's.
Welcome
right?
to Moe's.
Do you think people that work at Moe's have a hard time hearing doors open when they're not at work?
Whoa. Yo, you just blew my fucking mind.
Dude, you just
That
called
is stress.
you just called out corporate Moe's like with some employee trauma.
Like they need like some like counseling after they fucking work there. Like they gotta undo some shit.
Like those doors with the like the convenience store doors with the bells on it, they hear that and they're just like,
anytime you hear a bell, you're just like, "Can I help you?"
Yeah.
welcome to Moe's. Oh, sorry. Hi, Grandma. How you doing? Like that kind of thing.
Yeah. I mean,
I agree. I think they're traumatized.
it's legitimately something that I've thought about anytime I've been in a Moe's.
Yeah.
I've never asked anybody though.
Yeah. I stopped working at Permane's like over a year ago, like when the pandemic started in March, and I just now can like really enjoy the food again. Like it took that long for me to be like,
Sure.
It's not like there was anything wrong with it, but I was like, I would come home and my hands were coleslaw
Oh,
soaked
yeah.
and
Oh, yeah.
oniony and gross.
Totally.
You see the other side of it.
And it sucks being from Pittsburgh and just wanting to shit all over Permanis too.
Bro, I fucking love Permanis.
Yeah, me too now.
If I have a friend that comes into town,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not gonna be like, let's go to Permanis.
Yeah.
Because I get it. It's like I am dog shit. You're not. If you want to go, we can go. But I am never. It's in the same way I would never introduce myself as Sykes to someone.
Yeah, exactly.
I would never be like, you got to eat Permanis. If you want to, cool, let's go.
Right.
Yeah, it's like somebody's in town. They're like, "Yo, what should we drink?" I'm like, "Let's go to the Craft House." Like,
Yeah,
not
like,
give them Iron City right
don't-
off the
don't
bat.
give them
And
a-
like once
yeah.
they've had a couple, be like, "Yo, this is our shitty."
I think that it's, it's not too different from how art is sometimes. I think it's really easy when you're super passionate about something that you want to put it on somebody.
Mhm.
And then like, I respect that. But if you're like a jerk to somebody, like, what do you mean you don't like the new Taylor Swift album? You're crazy. Like that kind of, what do you mean you don't like Permanis? Who the fuck cares
Yeah,
if you don't
cares?
like something or if you do like it?
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, I agree with that. It's just like, do what you want. Unless it's hilarious to do that. I will get defensive over Taylor Swift 1989.
That
not gonna
record
lie.
rules. Give me
Putting that
some.
out there. I know. I'm just putting that out there, but I
Blank spaces, dude.
Yeah. I mean, I think
She
that-
can crank out the hits.
yeah,
Man.
I have no problem with Taylor Swift.
Cool. you just pinched a nerve with Jeb
I
a
was
little
just
bit.
like,
He's like,
for
dude,
the-
don't insult my girl Taylor.
It's just like I'm gonna marry her one day for sure. Absolutely.
T Swizzle, dude.
I think that it's really, really important, especially I think for anybody. I will say this. I think it's really important for anybody who is a musician to have a healthy relationship with pop music.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
I agree too.
I mean, you don't necessarily have to be a fan of it, but I think listening to it, understanding, there's a reason why that stuff is at the top.
Yes.
It's like scientifically engineered to like tickle people's like pleasure
Yeah.
spots that make them enjoy and feel good or feel sad. Like it's a crazy thing. And it's like understanding the DNA of a pop song, I think will make anybody a better songwriter, regardless of the genre of music.
Oh, absolutely. I think just in terms of overall production, it's like there's a lot of like we kind of joked around earlier with Dave Grohl, like throwing money at studio time and stuff. But even
For
like
the
records
DGs.
like that, yeah, like the DGs, like I'll listen to that. And like as you get into like the production side of things, you're like, you start hearing
Sure,
stuff
yeah,
that's
yeah.
just like, that's how I kind of got
Jack
more into it,
Atnoff
'cause-
or whoever does all that like pop stuff now, like is like the genius that makes people money.
Yeah, exactly. And not only that, but just like every time you listen to it, it's so highly like well produced and there's so much money behind it that like you can always learn from any kind of music and
Yes.
especially pop music. And like it is popular culture. So there is a layer of everybody knows what this is outside of music. Cause you talk music with your friends, you know everything like about what they like and you can recommend bands and then you go back to Thanksgiving dinner and you're like, yo, have you ever heard about King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard? And your grandma's like starting to think like, should we have sent him to military school? like what's the deal?
Have you are you a Sykes or Brian, whatever? Are you don't mean to
Well, I mean, to be fair, at the start of every podcast, I'm like, welcome to Start the Beat with Sykes. My name is Sykes and this is my podcast.
crap.
So I'm a total fucking ding dong. I've only been doing that for over 400 episodes.
Well,
Whatever. Welcome to Start the Beat with Sykes. My name is Brian and this is my podcast.
There you go. Boom.
Yeah, but anyways,
we got it.
sorry.
No, it's okay. Do you use TikTok?
No.
Okay. That's fine.
too.
But that's my gateway to pop music now.
Sure. I can see
There's
that.
this song by Doja Cat that I am obsessed with because I don't listen to happy music very much. Like if you listen to music that I play with bands that I play, it's mainly like pissed off, fuzzy, like whatever. But man, I forget what it's even called, but that song rules. But like I definitely fully echo that like you gotta get down with some pop to totally know what's going on, or else you're gonna live under a rock,
Mhm.
and that's not good.
I'm definitely guilty of there's like a couple of bands or artists I'm really into, but for the most part, I feel like I am way out of the loop with most shit.
What's your favorite album of all time? Tell Sykes. what you-
Asia by Steely Dan?
Okay.
I love
Makes
that
no
album.
sense.
I don't do anything like it, but that is my favorite album of
Yeah.
all time. I don't know why.
How much of that, if any, is like tied to nostalgia? Is that something that you've listened to for a long time, or did you discover that like a little bit later?
I think kind of both. I guess when I was like 17 or 18, I got a crate of records from like,
Okay,
a
cool.
family member and was like going through a bunch of it because we got into vinyl when we were like high school. We were
Mhm.
like, oh, this it sounds better, all this shit.
Sure,
now I'm like,
sure.
I just like the format. I'm just used
Yeah,
to it.
that's
and,
cool.
But kind of through that, and there was Asia in there. I just remember listening to it, and I don't know why it resonated with me at first, but the production across that whole album and like the songwriting and just like the musicianship, like the way it evolves and grows, like really, it's very moving in a lot of ways.
We also
Summer.
covered Peg.
yeah, we
a
used
cover
to
of a
cover,
cover.
we used to cover Peg back in the day.
Yeah.
Not well.
No,
I
but it
would
was
like
fine.
to make that announcement. Not well at all.
Perfectly adequate cover of Peg by Steely Dan
Yeah,
by
actually.
the Darcys from
Adequate
Canada.
for 16-year-olds.
Yeah, yeah. There you go.
Yeah, with the whole pop music thing, I think that it's for me in discovering stuff. I don't use TikTok, but I will every once in a while, just like YouTube or just like look on Billboard Top 40. I used to do a segment on Start the Beat called Stop the Beat, where we would just listen to like the top 10 Billboard songs and just rip them
Oh, that's sick.
or get into it. I haven't done it in a really long time. That might be something to bring back at some point in time. But like it was fun to listen to that stuff. Most of it, like I just really don't care for.
Yeah.
But also it's like, this isn't for me. You know, like the Cardi B is not for me.
No.
It's not.
Machine Gun Kelly is not for me.
I also really like that song Up, which is like WAP and Up are like the foulest songs in the world. And like it like I used to say we have a quote board down in our studio that we write like silly things that we've said. And I wrote on there because I said it out loud that WAP makes me feel like a conservative.
Because it's like there's when I hear
so
that song,
obnoxious.
I feel two things. I'm like, God damn, she's a genius.
She can really
she
go
is a
for it.
fucking genius.
Yeah.
Like that is like perfectly executed top to bottom. Like,
Yeah.
oh my, that idea of a release. And the other half is like, you're right. It's like it's not for me. It doesn't
Not for
resonate.
me.
And
It's
I'm
too
just like,
much.
I'm just like,
Do either of you remember 2 Chainz?
Yes.
Uh
2 Chainz.
so I think, looking back now, because 2 Chainz was really popular like a decade ago. And then I don't know what happened to Sir Chainz, but Sir Chainz is
Mr. Chainz.
If you're out there,
Sir Chainz
where
is
are
gone. But I would have loved a universe where there was like a 2 Chainz Cardi B song.
wow.
Yeah.
And there could be one. I'm sure it wasn't a hit if it does exist.
This could be your pitch to like Columbia Records or whoever right now to bring back
But,
2 Chainz. And
oh, man,
collab
I
with
loved,
Cardi B.
the All I Want for My Birthday is a Big Booty Hoe song.
Sure.
That song is so funny.
A song that
It's
really
so ridiculous.
dumb.
Yeah.
a song that really resonates with anyone.
When I die, bury me beneath the jewelry store. What are you saying? It's so funny. She got a big booty, so I call her Big Booty.
That's
That's
right.
the opening line of the song.
He
Yeah, it's
rhymes
just
a word with the same word. That's rad.
and it's so hype. You're
Yeah.
just like, yes.
It takes big balls to do something like that, especially rhyming a word with the same word.
But I think that like what it really boils down to is that a lot of people just want to have fun
Absolutely.
when they're listening to music. And that's
Yes.
probably one of the most important lessons that a lot of people, especially in these like alternative moody subcultures, can take something from.
What's your definition of fun then? Like that's what determines the genres?
yeah,
maybe? Yeah.
for sure. And I
And
totally
I
get
think
what
that
you
like
mean.
moody music can still be fun musically. There's like a dynamic where I think you can play like, oh, this song is really depressing, but that drum beat smacks. Like you
Well,
can,
Yeah.
That's the way I try to write. Is like usually I'll put out like some songs where you're like the point is just to have it be moody and sad. Like if I'm really just trying to like express that and get that out. But then sometimes it's like I want to write something that like I can play at a party and enjoy it just as much after I write it,
Mhm.
and then still try to incorporate everything I'm trying to get out with it.
Yeah.
Like and like blending those two things together. Like grew up on garage rock and a bunch of stuff like that. So I'm just thinking half the time when you write a song, like, how is this going to do in a basement or like in a little room with a bunch of people, like in that vein?
Yeah, with our band Fortune Teller, it's like we try to get people from multiple directions where it's like I don't think we intentionally do it, but also like if you like hardcore breakdowns or something, we probably have a few nicks in the set that you can, swing your head around to. But if you also just like gnarly fuzz, we got you, that kind of thing, and riffs and whatever, So it's kind of good to try to be accessible to a lot of those things too.
Yeah, and if you lean too hard into that, obviously it's gonna come across as like fake and cheesy. Like it's within like genuinely what you're going for, but no, absolutely.
Or if you're King Giz, you just do all the genres.
Yeah.
King Gizzard and Lizard Wizard like put out like a 5-album year, and one of them was jazz, and then one of them was metal, and then one of them was it's crazy.
And that's honestly like the way I kind of approach it. Like we were talking about before with like art or just anything you're trying to go for, like keeping the boundaries open to it. And like each project is like, I want to put out a punk record. I want to put out maybe like try to write some more soul music or acoustic music, stuff like that, and not have that expectation be there. Because even if when you get to a certain level, like other people can expect things of you that, maybe that will be a thing one day. But if it's not, don't be mad at me for saying that. Yeah.
That's okay.
You ever, like, think back to like the beginnings of music being a thing. I mean, I know music has always existed in humanity, right?
Mm-hmm.
But when did we start putting genres on things?
Yeah.
It's almost like the question of like who decided what words were swear words.
True.
You ever think about that shit?
Yeah, that's
like who was like who's like fuck's a bad word? I'm sure there's history that you could dig into to learn that. But I want to figure out like when did people start deciding that like, oh, like, Elvis is one kind of rock, but the Beatles are another kind of rock, and the Doors are another thing, and the Rolling Stones are another thing. And then it like splintered off into like all these crazy things. Like I remember when I was a kid, there was like, the rock section, a rap section, classical, and that was it. But I mean, if a record store existed now, it would probably be impossible to navigate.
Record stores are kind of crazy now if you think about it.
Oh yeah.
Like the Attic is like the rock section, I think Billie Eilish is in the rock section.
Sure.
Well,
that's like an old school way of like filing stuff.
Right.
But like, does the Exchange still have like really ridiculous subcategories?
I don't remember. I haven't been to the Exchange in a minute.
Yeah.
Ever.
Yeah. They might. I mean,
I don't know.
Next to the action figures and post.
The Exchange is a headache.
It is. It's a great. When I was younger, I loved that.
Oh,
place.
totally.
And I'm sure if I went back, I'd still be like, this is
I thought
dope,
it was my favorite record store when I was like 18. I was like, this rules.
Sure.
They have everything I want. And then I realized they don't have everything I want. And
I'm more of an Ides guy. Or Eads. Is it Ides?
It's Ides.
Ides over.
Have you been to the Attic ever?
Yeah, I've been to the Attic.
Yeah,
and
the
like,
Attic rules.
I loved going to, one of my things was like going to Jerry's and like you just take like $15.
Yeah.
I could get 10 records, go in the back room where it's like all the old jazz throwaways and you just find like a 75-cent record, put it on, and like you'll just hear something that isn't online anywhere because it's too old to even have it be remembered.
Or it
to
sucks.
put online.
Sure.
Yeah, or it sucks or something. But just like I like that, like that aspect of record stores where they have those real deep collections and deep dives.
One small tangent, not
stuff.
a tangent, but one time I went to Jerry's and I bought some stuff that I just didn't know, and I texted my one of my best friends, Alexander Peck. He's the man. Shout out to Alex. I was like, check out what I got, because he's a jazz guy. He was my drum teacher, and he like really knows what's hip and what isn't. It's like, check out what I got. What do you think? He's like, that all sucks, man. I was like, damn, dude, I spent $8, man, and it's all crap. But is it still on my shelf? Yeah, it is. I have it now.
At one point, I kind of stopped buying every record that I could just because I was like, all right, it already looks full. And I was just like, I think when I got into it when I was 14, that's what I cared about.
Sure. I feel like how can you really learn about good music without taking time to listen to bad music?
Absolutely.
Sure. That's one of my favorite pastimes with my friends Noah and Zach. We have a playlist called Butt Rock Motherfucker that like we subject the rest of our friends to.
Yeah.
And it has like Stained, Creed, like Hinder, like all that kind of stuff.
The greats.
It's awesome. I love it. And what the bad part is that like, and they've said this before, that if you listen to it long enough, you'll start to like it. And that's a problem.
Sure.
Just like those two are the same guys that got me into studio wrestling back in January.
I'm like dipping out.
We tried. Like, I'm devolving into like white trash slower and slower, but like I'm gonna wear what I have. I am me. You know, I love it.
You know, there's only so much time on this planet, so you know if Stained and
it's been a while.
Old WrestleMania videos do it for you. Dig in.
They did in the winter, that's for sure.
I'm going to be maybe seeing Stained in September.
That rules.
Because they're touring with Korn right now.
Right.
But I and my friend Mario we're really curious if Stained is actually, because the tour's happening now, but that show's not until September. And there was already an article that Aaron Lewis got drunk and sang the same song twice in a row at a show. It's like, I don't think that Aaron Lewis is going to make it to September.
Our buddy Evan dug up this documentary about Stain making some album from like the early 2000s, dug up this archive, and he's talking about the song where it's like, what is it? What the hell do you do sitting in your mama's basement with a shih tzu, like one hand on your dick, right hand going click, giving you a rim job? And it's
he knows all of it.
They look it up. They like people know the lyrics, but, and
like it's just so,
he just recorded those lyrics, and then he was like, I don't want it to sound loud and progressive. I just want it to sound like Stained. After they have a big fight, and it's like, bro, you're talking about like putting peanut butter on your dick. You know, like that's crazy.
Bro, he just wants to sound like Stained.
You just want to sound like Stained.
I'm behind it. I'm like, yo.
This one goes out to Aaron Lewis. You know, keep singing the same song twice.
So either these are so right now it's like, okay, either they drop off the tour and they're replaced with somebody that I do want to see, which would be tight.
Yeah.
Or maybe Pittsburgh's the show where it really all goes wrong.
There's always the chance.
We're just rooting.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a weird feeling to be like, I want to see this band because
what would be more like, this sounds mean, but what would be more disappointing than watching a competent live set from Stained in 2021?
I know.
Like, what? Nothing happened. They played the songs and it was fine.
That's about like the worst case scenario.
I'm just like not looking forward to
get to that point. Even like Metallica, you'll watch like every set.
There's the same documentary out by them.
Yeah, exactly. Where they're
just bitching about each other about the most like insignificant shit.
One of their dads is like, "You should throw this album away," and they're just all like, "Come on, dude." It's like,
yeah, I think that, I don't know. Man, I really don't know. I just think that like, what expectations can you put on somebody that like is, you know, playing sold out stadiums across the world when they're like 20 years old?
True.
And then now they're 50 and it's like, you know, people change, your tastes change, things you want to do change, but you're like, that goes back to what I was talking about before, that like expectations of others on you shit, right?
That's right. You know
hear that? What are we supposed to do? You know what I mean?
At that point, you just gotta own it and be like, I'm doing this now.
Yeah.
But I feel like if you lock yourself into like, oh, I have to be Stained or I have to be Metallica, then you just turn older and you're like basing your whole personality off of this instead of like what you're actually inspired to do.
I hope that someday in your life you're like, I have to be Stained.
I have
that
to
would
be
be
Stained.
sick.
I'm gonna start.
Well, I hope that one day in your life, right, like you, fortune teller, will get as big as Foo Fighters, and then you'll do an all Stained cover album in about 2 decades.
I would do that, and 100%.
You'll get the royalty. You'll get like a third of the royalties if
for the idea. You'll get songwriting credits for all of it.
That would be sick.
Even though none of us wrote the songs.
Two-piece heavy-site covers of Stained songs.
A whole like 2-year
we really jam them out.
Campaign and tour about like, yo, these guys changed. You know what's fun?
Dude, invest millions of dollars into it.
Now that I'm thinking about it, it's so funny because like I'm gonna feel like a real hypocrite now because I'm thinking about like, oh, it's important to learn from pop music and things like that. But then I think about like bands that do really bad covers, like the pop goes punk stuff and all of that shit, and I'm like, I get like real cringy. I'm like, okay, maybe that's not the lesson to take. I don't know.
Stay in your lane.
What is the What's the yin yang of this, right?
It depends, because like we've done covers of that, definitely where we're thinking like this will do well, but like try to do it in our own style, and sometimes lean into it a little more. Like I just did a cover with Water Trash of Gary's song from SpongeBob.
Yeah.
Genuinely, because I felt that shit. Like, did you grow up with SpongeBob?
You know, it was around, but I didn't really watch it.
That was just part of the childhood, and
Yeah,
you know, watching
totally.
the whole episode's about Gary being missing, and
Where
like,
is
I was
he?
feeling it.
I always liked SpongeBob. I just never really didn't watch it.
It
You know?
was like a big part of our like our
like,
zeitgeist.
All of our
I believe it.
friends, like all of our family, we just grew up watching.
If you were born from like 95 to like 01, it really resonates with you. If the rest of you, like maybe a little bit surface level.
and there's obviously like play with that, but it's just.
I mean, we covered a Black Sabbath song on Saturday, so that's really just us leaning into what we know best.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, for sure. And I think like the divide between that is I'll watch a cover from a band and it's hit or miss with me, where either these people genuinely like are into this and are behind it, and it doesn't just fit their style, or it's not just a view thing, but they're taking a song, embracing it, and really trying to express it themselves.
Yeah.
And then you'll see a cover where it's like, oh, they just put this on YouTube. It's just a song they like, or that they think is going to get them views. In the disingenuousness of it.
Yeah,
that's a word.
I think that's exactly what it is.
If it feels genuine and authentic, like they're just doing it because they love it. That's what I get behind, even with original stuff for the most part, especially live.
Yeah, I think intention is definitely everything. There's something when like people go out of their way to be obnoxious for attention.
Yeah.
I find it very off-putting. I don't know. It's just not my thing.
Especially like,
but I like somebody that, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, that's fine.
I like when somebody has like a charming arrogance on stage. Like it's rock and roll. Like I want to see a little attitude, but like don't be a dick.
It's
a tightrope.
Yeah.
It's a tightrope.
Like one thing if there are bands that I love that do this, but it's one thing if you like bust out the same gimmick every night on stage. Like it depends. Like I really like 68. And we went and saw them at Cativa, rest in peace Cativa, where, you know, like Josh Scoggin lives up his guitar and it says thanks on it. And like, I saw pictures of him doing that the next night.
Like after the same song every night.
But like, I didn't know that was a thing. Excuse me. And I think that those gimmicks played better back before phones and stuff, because you didn't know that was coming. And you didn't know that was just special to you. You know what I mean?
I almost kind of think like that. You can think of those as like gimmicks, and almost even back in the day, it was like part of that show. It's like to the people performing, it's like a performer. But at the same time, now with like phones and stuff, it's like if you record every set, it's like almost like you would gig out like smaller gigs. And I'm sure you guys have done this too. Like, we'll take that Wednesday gig or something, like try out a bunch of new songs. Or I know you guys did that live to vinyl thing, right?
Yeah.
And like prepping for that, like building set, you're like building a show. And I'm sure like some of those things fall into it too. And I've definitely been guilty of like telling the same joke, saying the same thing, doing the,
but also like
party.
You just got to keep the list small of like, when you come see a fortune teller show, you know, you're going to get X, Y, and Z. But like you gotta leave. Like I think what we try to do is leave a lot to the unknown. Like, you know, will Jeb take his shirt off?
Maybe. It's a guarantee.
You didn't last time. You didn't last time. No,
I played earlier that day and did take my shirt off. So,
but like that kind of thing.
Yeah, I think that it's a little bit harder. Like if you're a band who is, you know, doing like a 45 city run and you're playing a different every night, like, you know, it's just like, this is a really good set. These gimmicks or these things work, and we're just going to do it because we're playing to, you know, hundreds of different people every night. And that's just like, it's a lot different than being like, you know, a band like my project Normal Creatures. We really haven't had much of an opportunity to tour, but we have like a ridiculous stage setup. And every time we play, I'm like trying to make sure that like the show is somehow different, because I know a lot of the people that are going to be there saw us last time.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't do that for like, if it was a tour, I'd be like, okay, this is the show for this tour.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I think that's why I really like, because I like the spontaneity of it. That's like why I love rock and roll.
You were the crowd surfing guy for like a summer.
Yeah, we all go through phases of things. I'm not even saying
You
I'm
gotta
out of it. I did it in West Virginia.
Can
a
I
couple
say when
weeks
you
ago.
hit your head at Black Forge?
Yeah, I got a concussion at a show one time doing just like ridiculous
Rock and roll?
stuff.
Yeah.
I know, like just 18, like let's go,
It was
whatever.
sick, dude.
But that's what I love about shows is like I love everything up to it. You build a set, you prepare it. Like the ebb and flow of like, okay, this 30 to an hour is our time to do this, to make this our environment, and like the people there, like to give them a show. And I like with rock and roll and a lot of the stuff we do, and this kind of goes for anything, is when you're on stage, like also the performance is part of that expression, like not just the
Absolutely.
songwriting, and being like, okay, this
Especially
is
with our band. Like,
yeah, and like as like
it's
yeah,
the
just
energy of it, man.
that's what it's always about for me, is like just wanting to bring energy and just
Yeah.
to put everything into that performance kind of a thing.
Yeah.
Is where I come from.
I want my ass to be totally kicked by the time I'm done.
Yeah.
If it's
Yeah.
not, then it's that's a problem.
Sure.
So,
I totally get that.
I
yeah.
look at it as like, yo, people came out to this show now, or at like Death Fest this weekend. You're like, oh, there's a lot of people here. Like they put their lives aside to come to this for a day, whether they wanted to, just as a festival or not.
Right.
I'm like, at some point, I'm like, we got to make this something that they will be so excited they came to
It's
see for.
so important to be aware of that.
Yes.
Because a lot of people that play shows do it for themselves and they're not thinking about the crowd that's going to be there. Like, why are you doing this show? Why are people going to come out? Why should people watch you? Why should people tell their friends about you and why should people come see you again?
Yep.
Like that kind of stuff. And it's really, really, really easy to not give a shit about that stuff because you're so wrapped up in yourself, rock and roll star mentality shit.
Here.
But that's not it. Like none of those people fucking care unless you give them a reason to. It doesn't matter.
Absolutely.
And the other thing too, like on the flip would be like, it doesn't matter if there's only 5 people in that room. If you can make them all give a shit, then that's
exactly.
We've
done that a lot of times.
Like nobody came to shows for probably like 6 or 7 years, to be honest, because we started playing out like we started playing together when I was like 14. I think he was like 15. I might have even been 13, and like
we were young boys
up until we were basically college age, like early 20s, late teens. Is when you could start getting some people out.
Yeah.
And
that was also like when your friends would be able to drive.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Like where my mom wasn't dropping me off, and Pete, the bouncer at the Moose, is like, yo.
Shout out to Pete.
Is she on the
Pete
guest
rules.
list? Like, yeah, shout out to Pete. He's one of the realest people in Pittsburgh with that. But yeah, so
I don't know. Think about I've gone to a lot of shows where like maybe I'll casually, like a big show. I'm not talking about like a local show where you like casually know the band and then you leave and you're like, oh my God. Like Saint Vincent is the artist that comes to mind. I was like a fan because our friend Riley was like, you got to check out their record. It's really good. And I did, and I liked it. But then I left and I'm like, oh my God. Because I was obsessed because I saw the show and it brought back the memories of the show and whatever. I feel like that's a thing that a lot of like local bands should strive towards, is like, if there are people there, make your music like evoke the memories of being at the show because it was a good time.
Absolutely.
Like that, you know what I mean?
Not only that, because I think like songwriting's totally different. Like songwriting and like show prep, totally different for me. Like building a set versus writing a song is whatever's causing the song to be written is just like inspiration from life.
Sure.
And then when it's like, okay, here are all these songs. Now let's build a show. Like, oh, we're going to play Roboto or a house show for 30 minutes versus, oh, we have a set at Smalls Theater for 45 minutes. Just what is the vibe? What's the energy of the place from playing? Just after a while with the experience, you get the vibes of it. And I think that's one of my favorite things now too, just as much with writing music as like writing sets for shows.
It's fun.
Mm-hmm. And then practicing the hell out of them, like moment to moment, those 45 minutes, like you're not you're this band putting on this show for these people. And then when you get on stage, it's so muscle memory that like, that's when you can let loose and have fun with it and kind of control the vibe of like, are you taking it super seriously? Is it a party? Is it what's going on with that? So
yeah,
I concur.
I think that it's a lot of fun to have the ability to like have been a band long enough that like you have enough material where you can do that, and you have the experience to know, you know, what works well at what venues, what works well with what other bands. And it puts you in a position where like you're not stuck just playing with other, you know, fuzzy rock bands all the time. Like you can find yourself on any set, and it opens up more opportunity, which I think is also really, really great for a band that's like still figuring it out, because you could play a lot like in your like local scene or your tri-state area and be exposed to a lot more people if you're willing to play shows with bands that like you don't necessarily fit with. Like if they're cool people, then like, you know, they probably have cool fans that are into different shit. So just take advantage of that.
And
we've experienced that firsthand.
Absolutely. And like, especially booking, like it's always, okay, well, what's the first 3 bands you think of? It's okay. It's the same 3 bands you booked on the last 2 bills. And then you think about it, and the shows for me that I've taken the most from, not even like money or like attendance wise, but some of the shows like coming up when nobody'd be there, like whether I'm younger, or even now, like real small shows when friends are in town or whatever, with a bunch of random bands where it's just, you're just friends with people, or maybe there's a band you don't know, you always learn something, whether you think they're good, whether you think they're bad, whether they did well or not, whether they've been around longer than you or not. Like my mindset is every set that I see and every person I meet, there's always like something to learn from it, and like something to be able to like teach them with by just interacting with people that you're not usually around. And that's why I love going to shows. I'm the guy that like, I'll just go to a local show. It's like by myself. I do that all the time, and just like meet people, watch bands, and just see what's going on. Cause if I don't like the music beforehand, or like the genre or something like that, if I go see it live and start meeting them, it's gonna start clicking. And then all of a sudden I see it from that perspective. And even with like the hardcore scene and a lot of metal scenes around here, that wasn't really my vibe. But like our friends in Cutting Ties, like a Death Club band, seeing them and playing with them through their iteration since we were like 16 or 17, now I get it. And now when I go to a show, like I'm excited for it. Like I genuinely see where they're coming from. So I think that's like, for me, a big thing is like trying to get that exposure to all the different stuff.
Yes.
Whether I end up liking it or not, like there's value in all of it.
Right. Yeah. I think that brings it a little full circle too. Cause like, that's what we're trying to do with Steel City Death Club in a lot of ways is, we involuntarily have gotten ourselves to acclimate with genres that we might not have before, and we're still striving to do so much more of that as time goes on, that, you know, it's just about the friends you make in a lot of ways with music, and there's no cap on the amount of friends you can make in Pittsburgh and wherever with playing music. And so why try to keep that into one group? Bring another band that you don't know in on the show, and you know, maybe you guys will click, and then that'll be a thing, and then you can expand it further in a show a month from now, and blah 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 blah, so forth and so on. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Kind of, and just like the people you meet through doing that, like most of my time now is spent like doing music stuff outside of work, and like the people that I've met through there. And obviously there's friends from life that you grow up with and stuff, but even like friends from West Virginia, or like, shout out to Tony from Bowling and Natural Rat, or like in bunch of different cities, like even here that I never would have met outside of music stuff, where it's like, oh, these friends are like my best friends now. Pretty much most people.
We do have kind of a flex on a lot of other people. Like all of us is like, a lot of people have their work friends and their high school friends and their college friends or whatever, some combination of all of those. We have those 3. We also have our music friends, and I don't want to speak for everybody else, but my music friends are like my best friends, you know?
Oh, sure.
And it fucking rules. Cause like we can all talk about like, dude, that blank record sucks so bad, and laugh about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean,
that
like
kind of stuff,
dude, like I met everybody that I'm friends with now, that like I'm legit friends with, are people that I met through the music scene over the past decade. I don't have any friends that I was in high school with. I don't have any friends from like jobs that I've had over the past. Like, none of those fucking people. Like, if I didn't have the local music scene, I don't know who the fuck I would be hanging out with.
Yeah, right.
I really have no fucking idea.
Yeah, I agree.
It's like this like weird path we diverted off onto where it's just like I can't imagine what my life would be like without this stuff now. And
it was weird because for me, whenever I got out of high school and, you know, start working at Taco Bell and all that shit, like my focus was really about just doing music. And I had friends that I did music shit with in high school, but it was just like something to do. But after everybody kind of graduated, it didn't take long for everybody to separate.
Right.
And then that combined with like a relationship that I was in that broke off because it was also, you know, whatever, you're fucking 19, right? And then like a lot of my friends were like, well, you know, we're going to hang out with that person instead. And I didn't fucking have anybody.
Right.
And I was like, okay, well, I guess I can email some people and try to rap at a bar in Oakland or something. And, you know, then it just
Did you ever play at the Shadow Lounge?
Oh, yeah.
I've heard legends about that place. It's not around anymore.
No, yeah. I had an album release show at the Shadow Lounge.
Really?
That's so cool.
I did, yeah.
Damn. Hell yeah.
In 2012, it was probably like the last year that place was open.
That rules.
But yeah, I mean, like even before that, fuck, man, there was like I played plenty of like hip hop shows there. I was in a few beat battles there.
Whoa. What's a beat battle?
Where like it's basically just like a bunch of producers on stage
with laptops,
and like you play something. You give all the beats to somebody that's just playing them, and then you have to like hype up the crowd during your beat, and like it goes against like such like you know like my like Sykes versus J.J.
Yeah.
And then whoever wins that, you know, it's like a tiered thing.
I want
right?
to go to one of those. Do those still happen?
I don't think anybody's doing them anymore.
Damn.
But,
can we bring them back?
Sure.
Just beat back. That sounds like a great party.
That sounds sick.
It was fun. It was fun. You know, I think I did 2 of them. I didn't do super well, but it was like good vibes. Like, you know, everybody had fun.
Yeah.
That's what matters. To another thing too is like, Jeb was talking about like, friendships and music and stuff like that. Just a point I wanted to make was that I think one of the true motives of Steel City Death Club is to try to encourage friendships amongst music people, different genres, etc., as opposed to division, which can happen because people think it's a competition, because it's not. Like, I remember one of the first things we said in that silly documentary that we were making fun of earlier was like, but it's true. If one guy does well, we all feel good, you know, or whatever.
Yeah.
We all win.
It's like just feeling like wanting your friends to do just as good as like you ever could.
Like
is part of it too, is getting there with that.
At Death Fest, Cutting Ties, one of the hardcore bands on Steel City Death Club with Noah and Zach, the butt rock motherfucker playlist guys, they played their first show back in like, you know, forever as a new iteration, as a 3-piece. I got just as jazzed to see them do their thing as this new thing as I did when I was playing, because it was fucking awesome, you know, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So, and that, I think that feels pretty good, and it's wholesome at the same time.
Oh, absolutely. Like seeing like a lot of my friends that we've like come up with is, there was like a point right around early 20s when you're like, we don't entirely all suck anymore. And then now when you see like some of our friends like in like Water Trash or Cutting Ties, or even this last weekend, like fill up a place no matter how small it is, you're just like, you just get so jazzed on it.
Yeah.
It's just like, I don't know. There's just a sense of that. And honestly, anytime I go to a local show, even when it's like bands I don't know or performers I don't know or anything like that, and they do well, there's still that feeling of it, especially coming up when, and I'm sure you know this too, like when you're younger, all the shows that there's not a lot of people at, like nobody really cares, you're figuring it out. And then when you start to see it like, oh, a local group is doing well, it just always gets me so pumped up.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, totally. You know, it makes you realize that it's not impossible. I think a lot of times you know, it's easy. Like even earlier, I was like, oh, nobody really cares. It's like people care. They just don't care as much as you fucking care.
Yeah.
So,
exactly.
Yep.
And like, it's just, you know, taking like finding value in like the small things, and not expecting everybody to give a shit every time. Like, oh, like here's another fucking picture of the band from this live show that we played 2 weeks ago. We've been sharing different photos every day for the past fucking week and a half. It's like, nobody cares. Or like, you know, you post about like in the studio doing stuff. Okay, cool. Like you're doing what this is what we expect you to be doing. So it's like just publicly as a band, my advice to a lot of people is to just shut up until you actually have something to say.
Yeah,
that's true.
Yeah, don't
Stop
overpost.
Proving it.
Yeah, we get it. We get it. We get it.
Kind of what we're doing right now, isn't it? A little bit.
Overposting?
No. Shutting up until we have something to say.
Oh yeah, I guess my mindset. Yeah, for sure. I was just like, wait, are we over
with fortune teller? Sorry, not Steel City Death Club.
Because I was like, it's been like 2 days
too
since
ambiguous.
the fest. I was just like, oh, I think we've only made like one post. I was like, oh
no,
but yeah, I mean that's kind of the goal too. Is like, and I'm sure both of you understand this as well. Is like even talking about projects with friends and stuff. And I've certainly been there, like the ambition, like I want to do this, do that.
And the demo sharing sessions that we have.
Oh yeah,
and stuff.
where you're like, yo, check out these demos. But then you post something like while you're working on it and you're super jazzed.
Gets 3 likes.
EP, working on an album or something for next year.
Yeah.
And like I've certainly been there. And then you get around to there and you're just like, oh, I'm a piece of shit because I've done literally nothing for it. Yeah, who cares? And I've done nothing for it.
Yeah,
so
pretty much. Yeah. I agree.
Absolutely. But we are working on an album though.
We are.
Can we oust it?
I think we should.
Yeah. We got an album recorded. We've been working on it for.
We aren't working on it. It's been done.
We've been working on it. It's recorded. We finished recording like a long time ago, but
in March.
Yeah, we recorded for like many a month.
October through March.
Yeah.
Try to take our time with it. And yeah, we're all jacked up. But been working on it for a while, and October 8th, it's dropping with a release at the Funhouse, October 16th.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
So we're super
this is the verbal announcement.
Yeah, this is
the
verbal
actual
announcement.
in text and image announcement will be later in August.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
Yeah.
Cool.
You heard it here first on Start
Well,
the Beat with Sykes.
there's a chance this podcast won't actually drop until later in August anyways.
Perfect. That's great. There you go.
Announced recently to this, maybe.
Fortune teller is also traveling through time.
Yeah.
Yes.
There you go.
That's how the podcast always is.
That love it. Yeah, but our record
how it
is
goes.
coming out October 8th and on Steel City Death Club, and we have a lot of stuff planned for it.
Absolutely.
Awesome, man. That's really, really cool. Well, as the train is rounding the station here,
Yes.
I think we have successfully recorded a podcast.
I think.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, it's an
You're
honor.
super welcome.
It's really an honor. Thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
let's have a hand for all of us.
Oh, thanks.
Yes.
There we go.
Absolutely.
Cheers.
So, JJ, Jeb, thank you for coming by. Fortune teller, Steel City Death Club. Where can people find this nonsense?
All over Instagram, Facebook, social media, Spotify, any streaming platform. Let's go.
Yeah, steelcitydeathclub.com.
And we have a website.
And we have a
Forgot
website.
about
Yeah.
that. He runs a website.
Tight. And that'll be it. That is all, folks. Thanks so much for being here. Again, thank you guys for coming by. I'll be back again next week with another episode. Same time, same place, same channel. My name is Brian. Start the beat 2021. Whoop, whoop.
Thank you so much
for listening. And we're done. That was a podcast.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
That was so fun.
That was a good time.